Andrew Jeune here for the Asian Racing Report, looking ahead to a massive weekend at Sha Tin. It's Champions Day, 3 Group 1s on the programme, joined here by Michael Cox, editor of the Asian Racing Report and chief journalist as well in David Morgan. Dave, big weekend, sure you're looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's always good to have Group 1 races, isn't it? We've got 3 of them at the weekend. Japanese involvement, that British involvement, and some Australian against the Hong Kong best. So, yeah, it should be an interesting day of racing.
Yeah, it's good as well, Michael. The Japanese so important to these sort of days as well for Hong Kong racing that they've sent over some interesting runners once more. I'm sure they'll be hoping to take some of the prize money and silverware home.
Yeah, a lot of depth and a lot of talent from Japan. It's always good to see, and even a little bit more broader international involvement this time as well. Sometimes this in meeting can look a little bit like Hong Kong v Japan, but good to see some other horses as well. I'm sure we'll get to them.
Okay, we will indeed. Dave, as we go through it, we're not necessarily going to preview each race per se in the traditional fashion, but just looking the day as a whole and the meeting and the races, who comes into Sunday feeling a little bit of pressure, do you think?
Well, interesting one. I think the day itself, the name Champions Day, is under a little bit of pressure, isn't it? Champions. If we think about the history of this meeting since it went to the one day with the 3 Group 1s, that's 3 Group 1s on this day each year, and you think how many actual champions have we seen win these races or even compete in them? We've seen Hong Kong champions like Abel Friend, Beauty Generation. But on the Champions Day itself, how many overseas horses come in that are actually top horses and make it a Champions Day? And I would question that. It's kind of, it was a name that came up for the marketing for the brand, but does it justify it? And I would question that. I would think it probably doesn't justify that position. So we've got a meeting here with some good horses coming in, but they're not standouts. It's Japan's B team. Geraldina is an exciting mare, but there's quite a few, a handful at home that would beat her in a Group 1 as we've seen. Dubai Honor, he's very good horse. He's travelled. He's shown that he can travel and win Group 1 races in Australia. But back in Britain, he's not the one that you're going to say is going to be the favourite for a Champion Stakes or a Juddmonte or an Irish champion. He's one of those that's going to fill those 2nd through 5th. So I look at that and think, is the Jockey Club under a little bit of pressure with the name that they've given this meeting?
Well, I think, Michael, in terms of Hong Kong champions, they've certainly got all the big names there. They've got Romantic War in the QE2, got Golden 60, California Spangle, the Clash again, and Lucky Sweynesse in Wellington, last year's champion sprinter in Hong Kong, lining up once more in the sprint. But that's always the difficult thing for any racing jurisdiction. The club is to attract the overseas champions to line up as well. But what are your thoughts about who else might be feeling the pinch under pressure heading into the weekend?
Well, I think bringing it right into some individuals and to name some names, if you like, I think trainer Danny Jeune is under a bit of pressure. The trainer of Romantic Warrior, he'll start favourite again in the QE2 Cup. I think we always talk about horses being under pressure. We talk about jockeys especially being under pressure. But I think rarely do we look at market expectation and performance as pundits and say this trainer's under pressure. I think Danny Jeune's under pressure. This horse was spectacular in the Jockey Club Cup, first up, 2,000 metres. Went massive again to all the ratings experts out there in the Hong Kong Cup on International Day. But then has been rolled twice. When the market says he should have run better, no excuses given. Just the horse wasn't at his best. Well, I'd rather if there was like a vet issue or something there. Well, that's just saying that the trainer didn't have the horse right on the day. That's his job. That's Danny Jeune's job. And the horse is going to start favourite again, and it's going to have some pretty serious opposition, maybe stronger than on International Day, I would say, in terms of form, in terms of depth. And also add to that Danny Jeune's, look, you can only assume they've said the owner wanted a new jockey. Karras Teton off, James McDonald back on. James McDonald rode the horse on International Day. Karras was off. That's a card that a trainer can play. Jockey change. So the jockey's changed. Now he's got the jockey he wants. It's on the day that he needs to win. Let's wait and see. I think Danny is under pressure. I'm not suggesting the owner is looking elsewhere, but it wouldn't be the first time that bigger stars than Romantic Warrior have moved stables before. after 3 straight defeats, and that's what Romantic Warrior is looking at here after looking like an absolute world champion on International Day.
All right. And if the Romantic Warrior of December turned up, I think he'd take a lot of beating. But maybe is the QE2, the race itself, Dave, the best chance of overseas success on Sunday?
I would suggest so, yeah. And look, we had a bit of discussion before after Romantic Warriors win, myself and Michael. I thought Carris in the first run through, he maybe got a little bit wrong, but you watch that race back and really, what did Carris do wrong? Would he have won if he'd done anything different? And probably not. And I think, look, when Carris was beaten, I should say. What I would say, if you go back to Romantic Warriors' December run, he's definitely a massive chance to win. He's deserving to be favourite on his home track. But again, these horses coming in, Dubai Honor, Geraldina, Prognosis, even down on the Kid, they're good horses. He's going to have to be at his best to probably beat these horses. I think we're looking at the mile, the overseas contingent's a bit weak, the sprint as well. I don't see how they can possibly beat the Hong Kong sprinters on their own turf.
Your thoughts, Michael, on the overseas challenge? Who's their best chance?
So zeroing in on who the best chance is, and I'm interested to hear what David's thoughts are on which horse is the most likely overseas winner on the day. We're going to have 3 short-priced Hong Kong favourites. I'll go with Dubai Honor. I think, interested in what David thinks. I think some of the Japanese horses, maybe they rate higher, maybe they have a better record. But if you look at Geraldina, hasn't travelled, is that's just always a question. In terms of horses travelling around the world, if you look at some of the great globetrotters of the, say, recent history, is not always the best horse wins on overseas soil. The best traveller can win. The horse that proven that can get off a plane, go into a quarantine facility and run his best or her best race out of there. And Dubai Honor's just gone and spanked Animo down in Australia, run through a 2-run prep in Australia, which is always a difficulty as well. This isn't just straight off a plane and into a race and producing a big run. Sometimes it's the second run that can find a horse out, right? Or the first up run, they're not quite as good and they need the other. But look, I'm going to say Dubai Honor. If he does win, it's such an interesting scenario as well for the handicappers, the IFHA handicappers for the world's best racehorse rankings. They've put Dubai Honor right on the heels of Romantic Warrior there. If he wins, he goes higher. What if he goes back to Europe and he's just the horse that he was 12 months ago and Animo and Romantic Warrior are a bit overrated and he gets spanked in the summer in England? I just think it's a fascinating situation looking forward into the English summer, but I do think Dubai Honor, just on the measure of that proven capacity to travel, is the best chance of overseas success. David, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with that. I'm going to go with Geraldina, the mare. She's got that quality. That Japanese form is very strong. The run in the Arima Keenan was very good. Behind a horse who, Equinox, we've seen what he did in Dubai. That form looks really good to me. The question on how well will she travel first time? I was a bit concerned when I saw images of her a day or two ago where she was very sweaty on the neck. She seemed to be on edge, but the reports from people we've spoken to at the tracker that she's calmed down and that she actually went through her work very well. I kind of remember back to Morris, her sire, when the first time he went to Hong Kong. I wasn't really impressed with his condition the first day or two when he was there, and I was kind of thinking, I'm a bit worried about this, because I thought his Smile Championship run had been fantastic. And then he got better as the week went on, and obviously we've seen what he did after that. He's brilliant in the 3 runs in Hong Kong. So perhaps there's a little bit of that with Geraldina, and I think there is a little bit of a concern dropping back to the 2,000 metres, but the level of her form, I just think, is superior to the rest.
Just on the Dubai Honor angle, Tab, I can see why you go with Geraldina, because the Japanese have, obviously worked out the right horses to travel. They've had lots of success in Hong Kong, all around the world. But Dubai Honor, he could be, or he probably is, a very good international benchmark. But at the same time, overall, the UK or English-based, UK-based horses don't have a great recent record. It's about a decade or so since they've had a winner at any meeting there in Hong Kong. What do you think that comes down to?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of things. I think this time of year it's very difficult to get the best British horses out. I mean, there are a number of factors. How many actual top British horses are staying in training? And when they do, if it's, for example, a Frankel, that isn't going to be traveling to Hong Kong. Let's be clear. I mean, there's nothing to be gained from a Frankel with that stallion value potential going to Hong Kong. But then you look at horses like Ouija Board, Snow Fairy in the past that would have gone there. That caliber of horse certainly isn't coming to Champions Day. And in the December, you've got the factor of trainers are looking at that so often as an afterthought. Certainly British trainers, it's kind of, oh, let's just go to Hong Kong. Now, back in the day, they could get away with that a little bit, I think, when the Hong Kong horses perhaps weren't as good. But since we've got into this century, the last 20 years, that's become increasingly difficult to do. You've got to take a very good horse to Hong Kong, have it travel and be fresh, and not over the top to have any chance of winning. And I think perhaps some of those British trainers have been put off by that challenge of travelling. Yeah, there's a number of factors, but the reality is the best of the British are just not travelling to Hong Kong like they did perhaps in the past with, say, Ouija Board.
Yeah, but Haggis might have found one here in Dubai on. I think one of the interesting runners on the day, Michael, is Voyage Bubble in the mile. Now he's taking on the might of Golden 60 and California Spangle. It's 2-1 as far as their matchup is concerned this year. And Golden 60, you've described him as one of, if not the best horse Hong Kong's ever had. So what does Voyage Bubble's presence, the Derby winner and the Hong Kong Classic mile winner, it must be said as well, what's his presence bring to the table in the mile on the weekend?
Well, at the very least, and we'll get into it with David in a second to see where he thinks he sits. 4-year-olds look pretty good so far coming out of that. We've seen a couple of the Derby, beaten Derby runners behind Voyage Bubble come out and win. At the very least, he's a pace influence. You know, he's a horse that's adaptable in terms of tactically. He can lead. And then in the Derby, we saw Alexi Bedell just drop him right out to last and come with a long sweeping run, which, by the way, look, rightly so, we made a lot out of Bedell's great ride in the Derby. This is one of the greatest big race rides I've seen in Hong Kong. You know, the guts to do it from the gate. No one expected it. I asked people whether he would. No one. It was a complete surprise tactic, and it's really hard to execute on a horse that is suspect at the trip. Not suspect because of stamina, but how are you going to get a horse that's been leading every race to drop the bit, sit last, and now you're going to take off at the mile? It was brilliant. But if you actually look at the sectionals, it's the run of the race as well. The horse has been able to produce a run that was just magnificent. I think he's a really good horse. I don't know how good. I guess we're going to find out coming into this. But what does it mean for the race? Well, it means another potential leader. California Spangle, that's, you know, he didn't lead, you know, when he beat Golden 60. So, David, over to you. Voyage Bubble, is he I'm going to say, is he a genuine winning chance? Is he a single figure winning chance? Where do you rank? What do you think? What are you expecting from Voyage Bubble?
Expect, I'm not sure. I don't know what to expect, to be honest. He's a horse that's fascinating going off what you've just said, obviously, but he's fascinating in the sense that he brings that 4-year-old form in, and we're going to get a bit of a gauge as to where those 4-year-olds sit. But really, I honestly do not know what he's going to do in the race. It would be great to see, you know, what will Zach do? Zach on California Spangle, the expectation probably is that he leads, but we saw last time, and Zach took a little bit of, I don't know, there's a little bit of, not stick, but there was a sense that Tony Cruz wasn't happy that Zach did what he did last time, that he took a sit just behind. And I wonder if, I look at that race and think California Spangle still ran a very good race and he won well. I wouldn't be complaining about that. So it's interesting, if Voyage Bubble does go forward, what does Zach do? Does Zach decide to sit again? And if he does, well, on that last run, maybe he wins again. Or does he decide, because I can't see Zach getting into a battle with Voyage Bubble. He's going to do one or the other. He's going to sit in front and get the soft lead, or he's going to come and sit just behind Voyage Bubble. There's going to be no battle. But then does Bedell do what he did last time and sit in? I think it's fascinating, and I don't have the answer. I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen in that scenario. Someone should ask him.
So someone should ask, and we're not there this week, but like I'm happy to find out. Look, and like I don't want to just ask people just so they can tell me a lie pre-race, and then they change their mind behind the gates. Look, I think it's mile races at Sha Tin, and just to be clear, we're recording this before the barrier draw. I don't think it's that consequential with such a small field. But look, if I'm Voyage Bubbles connections, if I'm Ricky Yu, I'm saying own the race. I'm saying, look, Zach's shown a reluctance to lead, and I think that's because he believes the horse is better ridden just in behind and with something to chase. He genuinely believes that. In the lead up, you remember we went through a Derby prep where he's suspect at the trip, finished very close in a Derby, and that was all based around getting the horse to drop his head and sit in behind. They've educated the horse this way. And I think when he gets to the front that he does wait a little bit, he coasts. This is talking to Zach. He picked up on this early. Obviously, he rides the horse. He's got great insight. But if you have a look at some of the replays, I think California Spangle, yeah, he's got great tactical speed. Yeah, he's versatile. But he also wanders a little bit when he's in front and he's a sitting shot. Now, if there's any horse in the world at Sha Tin that you don't want to be a sitting shot for, it's Golden 60. Yeah. And I think knowing that about Zach, I think Voyage Bubble, being the underdog, let's face it, not much to lose. I think they're really aggressive out of the gates. I think they get to the front, get the rail, and dare something to come around and stack them up. Yeah, let's see. Ride him on feel, ride him however he wants. But look, throughout history as well, what we've seen at that Sha Tin mile, the best place to spring an upset, you know, you were there. That Beauty Flame beat Able Friend one day. Yeah. Beauty Flame's name's not coming up in the annals of Hong Kong's greatest ever horses. He just stole it from him, right? Sectionals. It's, I think that's the best chance of springing an upset here is front, rail, tempo from a horse that might be pretty good. Go back and have a look at those sectionals from the Derby. Final 600, final 800, final 400. Voyage Bubble's like top. And you know, I just think that's their best chance of success.
Well, as a Derby winner, he definitely comes in as the underdog here on ratings. 110 his rating compared to 123 California Spangle and 125 Golden 60. Be getting a lot of weight off them in a handicap, but it'll be fascinating to watch all the same. If the right horses win, Dave, it will be a Champions Day, circling back to where we started, whether it's a Romantic One or a Dubai on a Golden 60. And Lucky Sweynesse haven't touched much on the sprint, but he's definitely shaping up as a champion of the present and the future as well.
Yeah, and look, one thing I didn't mention when I was talking about the mile was Golden 60, who's the biggest factor in the race. You know, he's a proven champion round Sha Tin, proven champion. But again, let's come back to the champion. Let's have Golden 60 go to the Yasuda Keenan and find out what a champion he really is. That's what I think everybody wants. Moving on from Champions Day, let's get Golden 60 to Japan.
Well, that's absolutely right. I'm going to reiterate that. I just think it doesn't even matter. That's when we'll find out who the champion is, right? And that's what I wrote as much during the week in my column on Monday. Look, by ratings, you really should go there. News today as well, though, that Jack Dior, the Japanese flashy chestnut, the front runner, is going to the Yasuda Keenan. That makes it a much more interesting race. But look, I'm with David. Let's if Golden 60 can win, when he wants to earn the tag, in hindsight, it's going to make it sound more like a Champions Day if he can go overseas and win there.
All right. Okay. Well, it's a big weekend. Looking forward to it. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Michael, as well.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, David. Should be a fantastic day's racing there at Sha Tin. The 3 Group 1s to look forward to on Champions Day. So like and subscribe. Follow us on all the major social media channels as well, and keep tuning in for more from Asian Racing Report.